And good morning. Just before we begin our message this morning, I'd like to make an announcement for the benefit of our radio listening audience and our video watching audience who don't get to hear the community announcements that we make in the other parts of our service, because something very exciting is happening. If you enjoy the message, Spiritual Living, that you hear on the radio or watch on video, then I want to invite you to go to our website, www.cslsr.org, and look under the Education tab, because we have a brand new, never taught before 12-week course, the basic principles of our teaching, which is called The Science of Mind. And it's a course about health, success, and peaceful living based on this book, which is a compilation of what used to be a home study course. The lessons used to be mailed out to people with homework, and so we're going to use this book for a 12-week course, and it will be supplemented with modules on forgiveness, on how to develop an appreciation for the abundant nature of this universe that is around us and how to translate that into experience of living abundantly in our own lives. And even if you have taken all of the courses in this course and you're sitting in the audience right now, you haven't taken this one, and I invite you to come and enjoy that with us. It begins on May 14th, and it's called The Basic Principles of the Science of Mind. Now, our topic this morning is building your tomorrow today. And our topics all come from the same book, Living the Science of Mind. This year, we've decided to select topics from this book to guide us. And this comes from page 190, Building Your Tomorrow Today. So here are the 4 points I hope to cover in the message today. Number one, it's a quote from our founder. We must become more if we wish to draw a greater good into our life. Second point, and by the way, you may not always be ready for that. You may not feel like you're able or prepared to move forward in that way, but you can't let that stop you, because life's going to carry on anyway without you. The next point is, it's not a good idea to always wait around for life to become interesting. Rather, what we are learning in Science of Mind, that it's up to us to become interested and active in life so that we can become the more we wish to experience. And the final point is about one of those habits that can prevent us from building our tomorrow, and it's to do with what we're talking about. We build our tomorrow by talking about what we want rather than talking about what we don't want. That's a tall order. Let's dive in with that first quote from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. We must become more if we wish to draw a greater good into our life. What does that mean? And how do we do it? Well, to me, what it means is that I've got to be careful that I don't let my thinking get stuck in that thing called comfortable. Because life is ever expanding and changing, and I don't want to miss out on those infinite possibilities because I've settled down into something that is called comfortable, also known as a rut. I looked up what the word rut means. It's quite interesting. Here it is. A long, deep track made by the repeated passage of the wheels of vehicles going the same way, in the same direction over and over again, to the point where you cannot deviate from the path. How about that? Or it's a habit or a pattern of behavior that has become dull and unproductive, but it's hard to change. Wow. Well, let's turn to Joseph Campbell, who does not mince his words when it comes to us evolving from the inside to the out in our life. And he wrote a poem, and I'm going to share some of the words from the poem with you. And mind you, the language is very strong. He says in the poem, we must be willing to get rid of the life that we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Then he says, the old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. If we fix on the old, we get stuck. And then he says, when we hang on to any form, we are in danger of putrefaction. Then he says, hell is life drying up. I told you. Now listen to this one. He says, the hoarder, the one in us who wants to keep, to hold on, must be killed. He says, if we are hanging on to the form let me say this correctly. If we are hanging on to the form now, we're not going to have the form next. And finally, he says, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. It goes on, but those strong words, it makes me want to look more deeply into this gentle phrase from Science of Mind that says we must become more if we wish to draw a greater good into our life. It's the same thing to me. It means I'm the one. I must create the space in my thinking for that thing called new. I've got to be willing to break the shell of my thinking so that whatever wants to happen in my life can come through, that I'm not so much stuck in a rut that there is no opportunity for deviation, change of direction, newness. It means to me that I don't want to, I ought not to let my thinking get stuck in what happened in the past, because life doesn't. It's on the move, always. It means I ought not to let my thinking become obsessed with what might happen tomorrow. Rather, there is a place where I build my greater yet to be by maintaining an open heart and an open mind right now. And yes, while I'm standing in that place, feeling the butterflies in the belly of my uncertainty and keep on going, moving, leaning into my greater yet to be anyway, because that's life. That's how it goes. At every age, at every stage, and in every circumstance, it doesn't stand still. You know, I remember when we were purchasing this very building, how young I was. We were all young. Do you know that I remember sitting there in the real estate office with Jeff Baroni, one of our prayer practitioners, and it was the biggest purchase I had ever participated in my life. And I remember sitting there looking at the number on the loan that I was signing, and it was just beyond anything I imagined anything was possible. It was a stretch of imagination for me. It was a test of trust and courage. And you know, I can honestly say I thought to myself, it would have been easier for us to just stay where we were, even though it wasn't perfect, even though it was quite difficult at times. But it was familiar. At least I knew what I was dealing with. Even though at every point, life was whispering to all of us, you've got to go. Oh, there were so many moments when I didn't want to go. I wanted tomorrow to build itself without disturbing me. I don't want to have to step into the unknown. What's lovely about that? You know, so many times in our own history as a center for spiritual living, we've had to step into our greater yet to be and the unknown that it was wrapped in. Maybe you have had to also, and maybe it's time again. You know, do you know we started in a living room? That's how we started. We started in a living room on Clark Street in Santa Rosa. And then that egg had to be broken to accommodate the growth that wanted to happen. And so we moved into the basement of a building and shared it with a 12-step program. And then that egg had to be broken to accommodate the growth that wanted to happen. And then we purchased what used to be a synagogue and turned it into our center. And then that egg had to be broken to accommodate the growth that wanted to happen. And then began the moving around from this hall to this place, to this hall to this place. And then that egg of moving around like nomads had to be broken. And then we signed a lease at the Luther Burbank Center for 5 years, something we had never done before. And I'm telling you this because at each stage of the journey of stepping into the unknown, we were accompanied by the same stuff. You know? The drama of leaving behind the familiar that has within it the anxiety of feeling uncertain, because we might tell ourselves, I don't think I'm ready. I don't know if I'm prepared properly. I'm not sure if this is going to succeed. I don't know if I can make this work. I don't know if I have enough funding. Which brings us to the second point. Well, honey, you may not always be ready or able or prepared to move forward, but you can't let that stop you because life doesn't pause. It moves anyway. Look, I certainly believe in planning and preparation, but you know, I can use planning and preparation to hide behind. I can use planning and preparation as the excuse for not moving forward. I'm planning. And also, it's tempting to get settled in, especially if what you're settling into is good. I'm remembering that phrase we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Don't let good become the enemy of better. Like this building, for example. You know, it's good. And surely you've thought, like I've thought, you know, am I keeping my mind open? Am I keeping my heart open? And what if maybe this building is supposed to be the stepping stone to our next phase of evolution, you know, not our final resting point. I mean, maybe getting here is the practice we needed for building the $50 million campus with an intentional living space and retreat center and preschool. I don't know. Look, I'm not dissatisfied with what we have, and I have no plan to move anyway, so don't panic. But I am asking myself, am I building tomorrow in my thinking today? Or am I settling down into no growth? Am I building tomorrow in my thinking for the next generations to come? Or am I sitting down comfortably stuck in my thinking? You know, better doesn't have to be bigger. It could be deeper. But am I stuck? And why not accept life as it is, as that ever-expanding, ever-expressing something that it is? Then I can say my job is to look up from where I am and to dream and to imagine and to wonder and to let life pour itself into what I make room for in my mind and heart. You know, sometimes life can't pour anything into my mind and heart because it's preoccupied. Do you know what preoccupied means? There is a previous tenant moved in, and you know in California you cannot get rid of them. Sometimes the previous tenant in my mind and heart has a name. Sometimes it's called comfortable. Sometimes it's laziness. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's discouragement. Sometimes it's doubt and so on, you know. You know, when we were buying this building and we were so filled up with all of that, doubt and hesitation and scaredness, and about purchasing this building, something we'd never done before. I remember Reverend Ruth Barnhart got up and she shared an image with us. She had been present at a pregnancy, a labor of a young woman she knew, and the young woman in the midst of the labor decided that she couldn't go through with the birth. And she shared with us that the midwife said, just calmly and clearly, the baby is going to be born. And I said, that's it. There it is. That's clear. And I try to remember that image right now when I feel afraid that it's going to be too difficult. I tell myself life is going to happen anyway. When I try to remember that when I feel inadequate and I feel like I don't have enough or I don't know enough, I don't measure up enough, I tell myself life's going to happen anyway. Why not participate to the best of my ability, butterflies and all? Because, I love to be prepared for everything. I want all the T's crossed. I want all the I's dotted. I want to know what is the temperature before I dive in. But in reality, I have never been fully prepared or qualified for anything at all. Nothing. Nada. And all of that self-doubt and questioning the things I tell myself, it can get in the way of me building my tomorrow because I'm so busy focusing on I have to start off on the right foot and I have to be prepared and my history determines my, it's on and on and on and on. And one of my friends said to me, that might be unrealistic to think you can be that prepared or that qualified. My friend shared with me that Isaac Newton did very poorly in grade school. Apparently his teacher called him idle and inattentive. And he shared with me that Thomas Edison's teachers may have called him stupid and unable to learn anything. In fact, he was fired from his first 2 jobs for being unproductive. Or how about the Kansas City Star newspaper editor who fired Walt Disney because he lacked imagination? Or the Baltimore TV producer that told Oprah Winfrey she was unfit for television. Or Abraham Lincoln, who only had 5 years of formal training. It goes on and on and on. Because now I remember that, and now I can ask myself, okay, what's your excuse, Eddie? Don't try it. No, the point is if I wait for approval from myself or from anybody else, I'm going to stay where I am. Same rut. I know that. And here's a thought from our founder, Ernest Holmes. He says, it is possible that you have been using the power of your mind to produce the very limitation from which you wish to extricate yourself. Whoa. How does he know? I know what he means. My mind will tell me I'm not ready. And so it creates opportunities to stand still. My mind will tell me I'm not worthy. And so it creates comparison and acting small. My mind will tell me I'm not really prepared. And so then it creates being distracted on almost anything else except the step forward. My mind will tell me you don't have enough training or credentials. And so it creates excuses and on it goes. I remember the very first day on the job at this center that I had. I had no idea how to do it. I didn't know what to do. I remember sitting at my desk in my clean office. A clean desk. You could see the surface. And I remember feeling panicked. Look, I had completed the training, absolutely. I had even interned at 2 previous centers. I had volunteered for every organization like as you could think of. And still my mind wanted me to stay stuck in smallness. Here I was, finally exactly where I wanted to be, and my mind was saying, you don't know what to do. The thing is that my mind was accurate. I didn't. Nothing I learned in school could have prepared me for this job. And still, I had to get up and step into the unknown. It was very scary. But sitting in the chair behind an empty desk in my comfort was not going to build the kind of tomorrow that I wanted to live in. I had to get up. I had to speak up. I had to show up. And for an introvert, that is terrifying. I had to become more than I had ever been before in order for life to be able to flow through me. And I didn't know how to do it. But I had learned through this teaching that even though I didn't know how to do it, that gratefully there is a power within me, like it is in you, that is affirming our growth from the inside out. I just had to learn how to listen to it more accurately because I was listening to everything else. There's a story, I think it's a Sufi story, of a man walking about the woods and he spots a wounded fox and wonders, how will it survive? I wonder what provisions the Creator has made for its creation. And then along comes a tiger, a nursing tiger, who has some prey and feeds her babies first, and then, strangely enough, takes a little bit of the food over to the wounded fox. And the man says, how wonderful. How wonderful this is. I too shall rest in a corner with trust in the Lord of creation who will provide me with everything I need. And so he lays around for a couple of days and nothing happens. And eventually he dies from starvation and he wakes up in heaven faced with the Lord of creation and says, what's up? No, the Lord of creation said, I sent you the messages. You were supposed to follow the example of the tiger, and instead you imitated the wounded fox. Ooh. That is the third point of our message today. It's not always a good idea to sit around and wait for life to become interesting. Ours is the task of becoming interested and active in life, no matter what your age. No matter what your health, no matter what your finances, no matter what your history, no matter whether you are in love or out of love, no matter that people around you won't behave themselves. You and I, we have a mind, and a mind is a beautiful thing to use, to engage in life, to dream with, and to create with. Have you noticed that when you are interested in something, you become alive? I remember once somebody said to me, but well, there's nothing for me to be interested in. I just told her what I'd learned in Science of Mind. Pretend you are until you are. Get interested, and you will be interesting. Get involved, and you'll be included. Imitate the tiger, and you will be helpful. Make meaningful connections, and you will fall in love. The fourth point of our message today is this. We build our tomorrow by talking about what we want rather than talking about what we don't want. Because that can get in the way. You know, that's what sometimes gets in the way of building our futures. We're too busy building a case for what we don't want. And truth be told, what we talk about represents our dreams and our imagination, that's for sure. The words that come out of our mouths they originate in the creative medium of our thought, and that makes them powerful by my way of thinking. Oh, that's something to consider. What are you talking about? What kind of tomorrow are you building with that talking? With the images that we burn into each other's minds, with the words and ideas we cherish. We know we cherish them because we use them over and over and over again and repeat them. Oh, that's something to consider. When I talk, what does it make me dream for? What does it make me feel and wish for and reach for? How does it affect the people around me? That's something to consider. Are my words building the kind of tomorrow that I want to live in, what am I breathing life into? Or the way we use our words. I was remembering meeting a friend, reconnecting with him. I hadn't seen him for a very long time. And we had mutual friends in common. And we got to talking about the people that we hadn't seen. And we got to talk about one particular friend in common that I had incomplete business with, that I was frustrated about, that I had a lot of opinion about. And I started to complain about this person and sharing some gossip stories about her. And he said after I was done, it's funny you should speak like that, because when she speaks of you, she only has wonderful things to say. Ooh, smack down. But I needed it. I needed that wake-up call, because in that moment I realized I was using the creative power of my word to keep me and that person stuck in an unyielding, unrelenting past. I was dragging these chains of yesterday with me. The future had no chance to be different. In that moment, oh, what a change. Here's a practical exercise, one that I have used to create a better future. Maybe it will do the same for you. It's this. Go on a criticism and gossip diet for a week. Oh, when you go on a diet, it's very important to take the right supplements. These are the supplements you have to take. Take one compliment per person every day. No matter how many people you meet in your mind, pay them a compliment. Oh, phew. When I did that practice, I noticed that it really took attention and mindfulness to stay on track, because a lot of the time my mind was busy going over and over again what I didn't want. Running over and over again through what people should and shouldn't do, the ones who are annoying me. Oh, it was so liberating to begin shifting my mind away from that, to think and talk about in my own mind that which I wanted to think and talk about. Who knew that it was an option? To train myself to think about what I wanted to think about. Try that for a week, for a minute. Just a minute. People who are excited about life, they don't talk about what they can't have. Sometimes they're irrationally enthusiastic about what it is they want. And it seems to me that they often don't care how ridiculous they seem to others. Now, I'm not advocating that we live sloppy lives that are reckless and without discipline, but I am talking about becoming engaged and excited and enthusiastic. Sometimes people will use that biblical phrase, consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they sow. They will use that phrase to prove that they don't need to get engaged, that they can sit around, that they don't need to get excited. But I think they are foolish. I think they are wrong, because a lily is fully engaged in doing what it is doing. A lily is invested with one mighty urge to break through the dark of the soil and reach for the sky and open its heart so that life can pour through. It knows who it is, and that's why life can rush through it. Consider the lilies of the field. They don't toil. They don't sow. They be. There is a divine impulse within us. Something that keeps urging us, like it urges the lily, to reach up through the dark and to be who we are. And it keeps inspiring us to step into the greater yet to be, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. Here is the restatement of our 4 points. Draw greater good into our life with our thinking. Because life in you is ready, able, and prepared to move forward. So, become interested and active in your own life and build your tomorrow by talking about what you want in your life. I invite you to breathe in with me and to exhale into a moment of quietness. Within me is that which is perfect and complete, which was never born and can never die, that which is life itself, the divine presence, the spark within all. I turn to that within me for my guidance, my strength, and my courage, and I trust it to lead me through the valleys and the shadows and the doubts. Today I declare, I am free at last. And together we say, and so it is. I invite you to breathe in again and sigh.